Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the Kitts-Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards, welcoming you to InFocus, a weekly program where we take a closer look at what's happening within and across the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, your government. The St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force is a critical tool in the national security infrastructure in the Twin Island Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, as the rank and file of the Defence Force defends life and property from all external and internal unlawful aggression by land, sea, and air. Today, we'll take a closer look at the military agency and discuss how the men and women are achieving their mandate to contribute to the development of the national agenda while adapting to the evolving complexities of foreign and domestic threats. My guests today are Major Kayode Sutton, Acting Commander of the St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force, Captain Jason Maloney, Officer Commanding Alpha Company, and Lieutenant Lenn Daniel, Officer Commanding of the Coast Guard Unit. Stay with us for InFocus, your government, your business.
You're taking fire now. Taking fire. Where we going? Third floor.
Thanks for staying with us, and allow me now to welcome Major Sutton, Captain Maloney, and Lieutenant Daniel. Major, of course, you've been here before, but it was in a different setting. You were here to represent Elevate, but this is the first time that we're having a discussion on the St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force. It's so good to have you and your man with us.
It's nice to be here, Mr. Richards, and good afternoon to your listeners.
And Captain, Lieutenant, it's wonderful to have you as well.
I think it's nice to be here, sir.
Okay, so we're going to start off with a very basic question. Now, the St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force is critical to the security of the Federation. Can you explain what is the primary role and responsibilities of the SKNDF, as it is popularly called, and when it comes to the national security, what is the Defence Force responsible for?
Okay, actually, thank you, Mr. Richards, for that question, that critical question. You actually did answer, stated exactly what we are. Well, part of our responsibilities, which is, to the security of the Federation, through its borders, external aggressions, through air, sea, or by land, and also to support the civil authorities, whatever civil authorities, the law enforcement authority, the civil defense authorities, the other agencies within the government, like public works, and in terms of national disasters, we have awesome responsibilities and so forth. So it's an array of responsibilities that the St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force plays towards the national security of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
No, that's support of public works. There's some persons who may feel like it means that you're helping to lay roads or helping to crush stone. Exactly what does that mean in terms of supporting public works?
Okay, in the military we have different units. We have our own engineering unit as well. We can, with adequate training and capacity development, we can lay roads. Other militaries do that. We can also establish electrical layouts and things like that. We have the capacity has to be developed, but we're not there yet. But it gets to a point where we have developed enough capacity, and we will be able to do that. But as it is right now, we act in supporting role. We have electricians, we have plumbers, we have construction engineers, we have workers, civil engineers in the Defense Force and things like that. So we act in a support role to government agencies in terms of natural disasters. And interestingly, the Defense Force shoulders the main responsibility immediately after the impact of natural disaster. We tend to shoulder that responsibility to carry out the initial assessment. So to be able to do that, we have to develop the capacity. So we have those capacities, those skill sets within the Defense Force to be able to do that.
Okay, so the Defense Force is essentially made up of two different units, and we have the persons here who actually would lead those units, of course, under your supervision, and that would be the Coast Guard unit and also the infantry unit. Now, talk to us a bit about the differences between the Coast Guard and the Alpha Company, as it's called, which would be infantry.
Okay, you want me to start the conversations and then they pass it on to them? Okay, I also want to quickly state that the Defense Force has more units than just the Coast Guard and Alpha Company. The Alpha Company is the infantry side of the Defense Force. That is part of the regiment. And then the Coast Guard is more of the naval, the maritime side of the institution. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the engineering unit. We have the band. We're developing our agriculture unit, and we have the cadet corps and all that. Okay, but the names of the unit depict the different responsibilities that they bear. I will let the respective leaders of those units that are here talk about their responsibilities and what they do and all that.
All right, because those two primary units are the ones of persons.
Primary, right? Yes,
so,
yes.
So, Captain Maloney, let's start with you.
Captain Maloney, I'm actually responsible for the infantry. The infantry, in short, is basically the land forces. We do all operations landside. However, we still can act in support of the Coast Guard if or when they need that kind of support. But generally, we more cover things on the land side.
And give us a sense of operations. It's a very broad term, and of course we appreciate that there is some need for security, but give us a sense of what operations entail.
We do several types of operations. Most of it is in support of the civil powers, the police force. So any kind of operation that the police is doing and they need support, we tend to be part of that and support the police.
Lieutenant?
Yes, on the Coast Guards, and the Coast Guard is basically the police of the sea. We enforce all maritime laws. We assist all agencies that has maritime obligations, to include Department of Maritime Affairs, Fisheries, Customs, Immigration. So we basically like the police of the seas, and our duties expand. We also do a bunch of different community events, which are very limited. We do different security operations as well. And our main focus is really to protect against any illicit activities within the territorial waters of the Federation. So we basically are the police of the sea. That's the shortest answer I could give you.
Right. But also with the Coast Guard, most persons, as you would establish, think about the sea. But there's also some operations that would take place on land because, of course, the borders are porous.
Yes.
And so while there's that component of patrolling by sea, it also includes patrolling by land as well. So tell us a bit about
Yes. We also do beach patrols. And the beach patrols are very important, especially in the tourist season, because when we have tourists and we have a lot of seagoers, we usually have beach patrols where the guys will go on the beach and engage with, you know, the locals and even the visitors. So we also do mobile patrols on land that deals with the marinas, the internal parts of the marinas. We also do different observation points on the coasts. It's from land, but we also look at the coast as well. So those duties are also some of the stuff that we do inland. Our duties also include, in the event of any internal security issues, we are part of the Defense Force. So our men will supplement the regiment, the Alpha Company.
And in addition to what the lieutenant just said as well, the Coast Guard, you know, bears awesome responsibility. I mean, they protect the EEZ, the Economics Exclusive Zone of St. Kitts and Nevis. You know, enforce fishing laws. You know, we don't want illegal fishing. Another thing is that we see what is rampant in the region in recent times is, of course, well, from time, you've always had the smuggling of weapons and ammunition, you know, proliferation of weapons and ammunition. And we're also seeing a lot more human trafficking within the region, especially since the unrest situation in Haiti and all that, and of course from South and Latin America across the region. So they have added responsibilities. And when we're doing land operations, you know, the Coast Guard have significant roles to play because it's an extension. It's a force. The Coast Guard then becomes a force multiplier, in that regard. All right.
Okay. So also, Major, of course, now you've been running the force for some time now. Tell us a bit about the vision that you see. What is it that you envision improving in the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force and the changes that you would like to make?
Okay. I've you know, served in the Defense Force practically since it was reactivated. I started my career from the Coast Guard. Well, started my career from the police force. Then I was in the Coast Guard, and then I crossed over into the infantry. So I have a good institutional knowledge of the institution, and having this awesome responsibility, you know, to command the force and lead the force. I've been able to bring to bear some of the attributes, qualities, and necessities I have seen over my service years in the Coast Guard and now the Defense Force. And my vision is centered around just three main themes: professionalization, modernization, and then growth. That my strategic objective. I just pick out those three words because that encompasses pretty much what I am focusing on. The unit, our responsibilities are not predominantly military. A lot of times we have varying responsibilities, and that requires that the personnel within the Defense Force have to be adequately trained to be able to carry out those responsibilities. Be it somebody gets lost, a tourist gets lost in the hills, they go hiking, they get lost. We have to now do search and rescue on land. Soldiers they don't train for search and rescue, where we train to fight. But now you have to now learn the skills of how do you conduct search and rescue. Now, the Coast Guard does that, search and rescue, on the seas. So the pattern, we can, you know, adopt the same pattern or formulate, and there are, you know, established patterns and so on. So you get persons trained in that, they say. So basically what I'm trying to say is that, you know, in the professionalization, modernization, and growth, if you professionalize the force, you modernize it with the times, the force is obviously going to grow. Obviously we need to grow. because like I said, our responsibilities are becoming enormous and they are evolving every day. We're seeing the dynamics in the crime network that we have to deal with. So we're professionalizing, we're training personnel to ensure that they have the required skill sets, and then also equipping the force with the necessary modern tools. You have the acquisition we have in process and in support, duly supported by the Minister of National Security, that's the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Joe. He's supporting us in acquiring the critical assets that we need to be able to carry out our duties effectively and efficiently. And with that, we're going to obviously see growth, and also taking into consideration that our responsibility does not just lie within the borders of St. Kitts and Nevis alone, because we have regional responsibilities to the regional security system, and also further afield within the hemisphere. That will help us be able to improve the interoperability within the region and all the other security agencies within the region that we have alliance with, and help to project our output significantly.
Right. Captain, Lieutenant, talk to us a bit about some of the changes now that has been made in terms of the major outline in their vision. Now, of course, it's a military organization, which means there's discipline, there's structure. But of course, you have to be able to develop strategies and communicate them appropriately to the men. So talk to us a bit about the impact of the changes that you've seen and how that has been received by the men and women of the force.
The changes that we're seeing now, they are slow coming, really. However, they have some impact which are positive on the force in terms of the way things are being done now, in terms of we now trying to get gears, protection, equipment, etc., etc. That acts as a moral booster, really. They have not reached us yet, but at least they have knowledge that this is what we're trying to achieve, which kind of adds to them being upbeat, per se.
Yes. For the unit, as Captain Maloney said, the changes have been slow, but they're welcomed. Also, we well, I don't really want to jump ahead of the major, but we have a program where between the RSS nations, we have also started to incorporate and have exchange programs, and these programs, they would actually help to enhance regional cooperation, and the persons at the unit are very excited about this proposal, and it looks very, very promising. So that's one of the changes that we kind of looking forward to.
I can add on to that. What Lieutenant Daniel just said, at the last security heads and commissioners, heads of Chief of Defense and commissioners meeting that was held in St. Kitts and Nevis, a proposal was presented to the security chiefs, and actually I chaired the meeting here because St. Kitts and Nevis had the chair, and we basically introduced personnel exchanges within the security forces in the region, and the aim of that is to be able to enhance skill sets development and also adapt best practices that exist within the different various militaries in the region. We hope that we'll be able to extend the same to the police, but St. Kitts and Nevis and Barbados are going to spearhead that. We're going to exchange our personnel in the different fields with different skill sets, and then for some period, and you're going to be seeing them. We're going to be operating within our defense force, and also ours will be operating within the Barbados Defense Force. and exchanging ideas, and hence developing best practices within our forces. That is part of the professionalization I was talking about. And also we help to modernize, because the Bajan soldiers are going to come here and, hey, this is how we do things, this is some of the equipment that we use, and this is the results, and so on. We'll be able to, move along that skill, and vice versa with ours as well. That's just one.
Right. So, Major, of course, most persons are aware of the cooperation, the very close collaboration that exists between the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force and the St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force. But something that I think goes unoverseen, overlooked, really would be a collaboration with His Majesty's Prison. Now, of course, it's important that persons who are incarcerated, that they must have a second chance, a third chance, as much as possible, to help to reform their lives, to be rehabilitated. And I understand that the Defence Force plays an important part in the rehabilitation aspect of that. Quickly, if you can just talk to us a bit about how the Defence Force is supporting that.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Like you rightly said, we collaborate a lot with the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force. We are mandated by law to do that. And we are also mandated by law to collaborate with other agencies, and one being the prison. Obviously, the prison does not have enough manpower to carry out, every responsibility and duties that they have. So they reach out to us and we assist them. Because they're also part of the Ministry of National Security as well. So a safe prison, a well-managed prison, has some effect, a ripple effect on the state of national security. Okay, so now the Defence Force has been collaborating with the prison. We are engaged in some rehabilitative work with inmates at the prison. And that has extended over a couple of, probably well over 10 years, if not going for, probably going close to 20 now. We've had inmates come through the prison and then they come onto the camp, and we have a motor pool, we have other units that they can get training in, and then they become proficient in those skill sets. Like we have prisoners that came to the military who didn't know how to hold a screwdriver, and now they are able to break down vehicle engines and transmissions and rebuild them. There are welders, well-qualified welders within His Majesty's Prison that learn welding at Camp Springfield. There are people that work in the farms as well, in our gardens, assist. Construction. If you notice, we have a number of buildings that have been erected at Camp Springfield and at the Coast Guard base as well. Most of those buildings were, erected by help from the prison and persons that have learned construction by coming to hang out. We have persons that are in prison that have those skills, and then they bring other persons who are interested, who are inmates, along, and they learn along the way, and a number of them have become highly qualified. So when they have served their time, they're able to return to the society, and that helps to reduce the recidivism back into the prison, because they will be able to either start their own business, or they'll be qualified enough to be able to get jobs within the labor force in the Federation. So that is an ongoing program that is yielding a lot of results, and I'm very, very pleased with the turnout of the inmates that come to Camp Springfield and the achievements that they've been able to acquire over the number of years.
And of course, now the camp is a restricted zone, of course, authorized personnel only. So I would imagine that the security measures that are surrounding the inmates who are currently up there on rehabilitation, that it will be very strict and very stringent.
Absolutely. The Defence Force is a military base. There are rules and regulations that are implemented that run the base. and anyone that is there, we have to abide by the rules and regulations. We have good collaboration with the prison. We take into consideration the prison rules and regulations, but we do not want to restrict the prisoners because of our stringent rules and regulations, because we want to provide them the opportunity to be able to get an opportunity to learn critical skill sets. So we bring them in. However, they are governed by the rules and regulations in the St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force. They are supervised. They're not just left on their own to wander around. They have instructors that teach them how to weld. They have instructors that teach them the mechanic works and so on. You have electricians, you have plumbers, and so forth. So they're being properly supervised. Is contrary to the rubbish that people say on social media. We don't operate by social media, really. I mean, we're not deterred by all the negative that goes on in the social media. In fact, it energizes us to continue to help, to develop, rehabilitate those inmates so that they can go out of the prison and be able to live their life and become constructive, productive citizens who will contribute to the the development of the Federation.
Okay, so let's move on now quickly. There is, of course, June 1st. It's June 4th now. If you're listening or watching this live, it's June 4th now. But on June 1st, it was, of course, the start of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. Let me talk to you, Captain Maloney. I'll bring you into this question in terms of what is the role of the St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force in terms of disaster preparation and response. And I appreciate that there was a recent collaboration between the Virgin Islands National Guard that would have helped to enhance some new techniques. Talk to us a bit about that.
In terms of the Defence Force, in terms of disaster, the Defence Force is actually part of a committee at NEMA. One officer would be there who actually chaired the committee on behalf of the commander. So that's a search and rescue committee, actually. So we work closely with NEMA in terms of disaster. In terms of the exercise that was done last week with the Virgin Islands National Guard, that exercise was pertaining to human assistance and disaster logistics. Yeah. So we work closely with the Virgin Islands National Guard, and often we get training that would assist us to better prepare us in a number of different areas. This year, we actually had one pertaining to humanitarian assistance and disaster logistics.
And certainly we would have seen on the screen persons who are looking at live to recognize that there was not just the Defence Force that was involved in the training, but also personnel from NEMA, personnel from the Royal St. Kitts-Nevis Police Force, of course the Fire and Rescue Services. Talk to us about the importance of having them included as well as part of this training.
Those persons at the different agencies are included because we work closely with those agencies. So in the event that we get called out and they are part of the persons who get called out, then all of us work in harmony instead of the Defence Force out there doing one thing because we have been trained totally different in comparison to a different agency. So by doing all of the different agencies, then it's a more smoother process in comparison of the Defence Forces out there by themselves. Then we would end up maybe conflict. So to avoid that, the SME, which is what was conducted, get all of us together and we operate under one roof so everybody understands each other.
Lieutenant, anything you care to add from the Coast Guard perspective?
Yes, well, from the Coast Guard perspective, we assist the land forces in the event of any disaster. We also assist the Port Authority with anything they need around these periods. The training was also extended to us because our logistics personnel also get involved when it comes to movement of supplies and that kind of stuff in the event of a disaster. So we we already prepared. You know, we already ready for the season. We already posted out all of our orders and stuff, so we're actually ready for the season.
No, that's hurricane, but of course another natural disaster that possibly could happen is a tsunami. The Coast Guard operates on the sea. What's the responsibility of the Coast Guard in the event of one?
In the event of the, tsunamis, alert persons of the impending danger and assist anybody to head to high grounds, because we ourselves would be heading to high grounds as well.
Seafarers,
So,
they have to
yeah.
alert, educate the seafarers.
So we have to alert everybody, that even persons that are on sea, we have to find out who is at sea so we could get some sort of communication with them to have them either ride out into the oncoming tsunami or head back to land and try to get as high as possible.
And also warn persons who may be on the beaches.
Yes, one person on the beaches, send out warnings and stuff to everyone.
You see, the Defense Force, if I may add to what Lieutenant Daniel and Captain Maloney just said, as regards disaster relief operations and the responsibility that the Defense Force has. The beginning of every hurricane season, we have to issue orders, and so we know exactly what we are doing. And then the orders is further broken down into the different units. So everybody has a responsibility. We have our teams, we have all the responsibilities that we will be assigning personnel, our personnel. And that fits into the national disaster response, okay? And the training that we're getting is all to enhance our capacity, national capacity building, and also enhance interoperability within the different agencies, so that is well synchronized and coordinated.
Okay, we're going to have to take our first break, Major, so we're going to take our break and we're going to talk next about trade winds, of course, which is a symbol of the partnership that exists between St. Kitts and Nevis nations in the Caribbean and of course the United States and some other partner agencies. But before we do that, we're going to take our first break, and during the break we'll actually see a bit of a video of some of what took place there in Trinidad and Tobago where it was held. So stay with us, viewers and listeners. We'll be right back with more In Focus.
Trade Winds 25 is a U.S. Southern Command sponsored multinational exercise. This year's iteration just happens to be graciously co-hosted by the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. Trade Winds 25 serves to enhance and increase interoperability amongst all the various participating partner nations.
The exercise would have been divided into multiple training tracks. So we have the land track, we have the maritime track, we have cyber track, we have humanitarian aid and disaster relief, and then we also have the special forces and the interagency track.
I think not only did we meet the goals for Trade Winds 25, I think we exceeded them. The various partner nations did an exceptional job coming together, quickly forming teams and executing the training that was put in front of them.
We all need each other, and at the end of the day, if and when something does occur, we all have to know each other, we have to be familiar with each other. We have to work together to ensure the safety and security of our citizens and our regions.
Welcome back to In Focus. We continue our conversation with the acting commander of the St. Kitts-Nevis Defense Force, Major Kayode Sutton. We also have Captain Jason Maloney, who is the officer commanding Alpha Company, which would be the regiment or the infantry unit, and also Lieutenant Lenn Daniel, who is the officer commanding of the Coast Guard unit. Okay, so we just saw a bit of a video about what took place during Trade Winds 2025 in Trinidad and Tobago, and of course St. Kitts and Nevis, we hosted it twice. Major, it was a very special time. I remember, I think it was back in 2017, 2016,
2015 and 2018.
Right, okay. And so
in recent times.
Yes, in recent times, yes. And so we would have sent a contingent to Trinidad and Tobago to participate. Lieutenant, can you tell us a bit about who participated at Trade Winds?
Well, we had 15 persons from the defense force. We had, how many we had from the police?
And about two persons. Yeah.
So there were multiple tracks that these persons participated in, which would include a bunch of different things to do with HADR and some other stuff. They also introduced...
Let me stop you. That will be human and disaster.
Yes.
Human disaster
and disaster relief.
Right.
Operation.
The acronym, just so the persons can understand.
Yes.
Right.
So they also had different sections to do with the drone operation as well. And they introduced a media cell, which was very, very interesting. We had two persons from here attended that media cell. And for the infantry sections, Captain Maloney can say what all they participated in for the infantry section.
They had cyber security, they had intel, and the other was more general field operation.
High intensity security operations, counter narcotics, counter terrorism, all those kind of operations.
Yeah, we saw there was a special emphasis on special forces as well too. That type of intense training.
Yeah, that's why it's mentioned the high intensity training, where you're able to compact a lot of different skill set into very few people to operate effectively on a specific security operations, and also to be able to transform immediately to some other follow-on or future operations.
And that also feeds into the regional partnerships, Major, that you mentioned earlier in terms of having the responsibilities within the regional security system, but also forming those key relationships with the United States, with Canada, with Mexico, with security forces from across different larger territories, which has more manpower, which has more skills and more
resources
that we can use.
Yeah, that's so true. In fact, as we are speaking now, we have the His Majesty's Canadian ship, a naval ship that is visiting us. William Hall is docked in Port right now. It's part of that collaboration.
Yeah, that's it.
That's part of that collaboration. We train together to be able to enhance, develop skill set, and improve on our capacity development, and also learn the new techniques that is out there. We share, and then we develop our best practices, so that when we have to act in that capacity, we are not lacking. We are not lagging behind. And St. Kitts-Nevis does not exist by itself. Like I say again, we have regional responsibilities, and trade winds is one of those not strictly military, but one of those operations that brings together all the pieces and test the capacity within the region, and kind of fine-tune it so that we have best practices.
Right, and since you bring up the William Hall, there's a quote that really captures exactly what you would have been talking about, and I'll ask for it to come up on the screen now. And it was a quote by a Rear Admiral, I think it's Jose is how you pronounce her name.
Jose?
Jose, Jose.
Okay, Jose.
Right, she's the Rear Admiral for some forces in. Randy, can we get the video, please? It's a quote.
Okay.
Right, and it says that the deployment of the HMCS William Hall to Operation Caribe demonstrates Canada's unwavering commitment to international security and our dedication to combating illicit trafficking here in the Caribbean. Yes, talk to us a bit about that mission that is happening here.
Well, we have the vessel visiting our port. There's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of exchanges in operational capabilities, which I really cannot discuss, because of the nature of those operations. But the beauty, or the benefit rather, the benefit of the vessel, the Canadian Navy vessel visiting us, is basically to help us to enhance our capabilities, and also plugs into the regional network of countries collaborating England has Navy ships in the region. America have their Navy ships. They have Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard ships and U.S. Navy ships in the region. You have the Dutch also have vessels, navies in the region. The French also. So it's all part of the network, and we get all the port calls and the collaboration to sharpen, do exchanges, do relevant training to help to develop and enhance the skill sets within our different units.
And Lieutenant Daniel, let me bring you now and ask you a bit about something that happened recently here in St. Kitts-Nevis. And I want to discuss really the procedures, not necessarily that incident per se. But of course, as we speak about human trafficking, and the Major would have spoke about the conflict in Haiti that is driving some persons to migrate, taking risks, unfortunately, with their lives to seek a better way of life. Now, of course, you would have seen a recent ship, and it turns out that ship came all the way from Africa. It actually drifted into our waters where, unfortunately, there were a number of, there were no survivors. There were bodies there. What is the procedure in terms of the Coast Guard in investigating those things? Because while we appreciate that they are bodies and we don't know, we have to be sensitive still and respectful of the dead, but we still don't know what would have caused the death. And so you have to be careful in terms of whether it may be some sort of a contagion. Of course, Ebola is something that is very critical and something that could help to spread across St. Kitts-Nevis very easily because it's highly infectious. To talk to us a bit about the procedures that the Coast Guard takes when they're investigating such matters.
Yes, so let me take it back. So for these incidents, we usually do an initial assessment where we would approach the vessel and we look and see the threat level, see what the condition is. If we have a visual of what's inside, then we can determine the level that we will approach it. If it's in this case where it's like what you mentioned, where there are dead bodies and stuff in it, then we will take extra precautions to actually approach this vessel. We will try our best. We actually try to keep some PPEs on board. So we try our best to protect our sailors.
Again, that would be personal protective equipment.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll actually keep these stuff on board so we could protect our sailors. And they would actually approach the vessel, try to go as upwind as possible from whatever is blowing, try to secure a line to it and tow it at a distance. As we get into the port, we'll contact health. We'll contact CID as well, police, and then we will secure the vessel off land until we actually get someone from health, and then they will come and look at the situation, and then we proceed from there. So we basically try our best to, be very sensitive, even though it's just bodies. We try to not to disrupt anything too much. We try to leave it as it is. So when the investigators come to look at what is going on, so they can better analyze what happened, what the cause of death, if there are any diseases that exist. So we try not to get involved with the vessel. We try to keep it as distant as possible, and respect.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And Major, perhaps you can talk to, excuse me, not Major, I'll bring in Mr. Maloney here, Captain. Talk to us a bit about, as we speak about the William Hall and ship operations. Now, the Hall is here and they'll be patrolling our waters and assisting in different security operations, but there's also a community aspect that's going to take place as well too. And I think the acronym, I'm going to use the acronym, COMWELL, which means Community Relations.
Community Relations.
Yes, talk to us a bit about what they'll be doing here on that.
The Canadian vessel that is here, members from that vessel should be doing a community exercise in Connery to the community center. I think they should be doing some painting of the community center. That should commence from tomorrow until the 8th. So that is what they will be doing. So soldiers will be there also to assist with the exercise, community exercise.
Major, can members of the community participate? Can they assist in any way?
Absolutely. It's not a restricted operation. We are trying to uplift a community, give back to the community. We want to, paint and try to resuscitate whatever is not working within the community center, so that when we finish, the community center is well renovated. And if there are still pieces of work that needs to be completed after the sailors are gone, the Defense Force will take that responsibility and finish it off. But everywhere soldiers go, we try to give back to the community, and we encourage community members and anyone who wants to participate to come through and give a hand.
And if someone has donations to make, whether it be paint or paint brushes, how can they do so?
Yes, they can make the donations. Contact the Defense Force or contact me, or come to the site and bring whatever they have. They can also bring fruits from their yard, so that the Canadian sailors that are coming here can taste some of the delicious fruits that we have in the Federation. We don't want to give them apple, because apple comes from Canada. We don't want to give them grapes. We give them mangoes, and other tropical fruits. So people, we welcome people to contribute in that manner. And if they want to also contribute their time to assist with the painting or plumbing or whatever it is, carpentry and all that, they'll be welcome. We welcome that.
Okay. There are some key dates that the St. Kitts-Nevis Defense Force will be observing, and I would like to just run through them quickly, Major. Perhaps you can tell us a bit about them, and we can first start with the 10th of June, which takes place.
Yeah, the 10th of June anniversary, which was the attack on the military installation as we know it, is coming up next week, Tuesday. The Defense Force will be observing that the anniversary. We're going to have a church service on the Sunday before, and we will be having a route march through
You want
Bastard.
to mention where the church service is?
The church service is likely going to be at what's the name of the church on Central Street? No, this church on Central Street, opposite Brown Bakery.
I think it's the Church of God. I think
Church of God. Yes, yeah, that's the church we are looking at. But that is still, the application is confirming that is still in process, because the different churches might have other activities going. But we want to keep the church in the heart of the communities that we duly serve. Okay, so that is going to be, we'll confirm that hopefully before the end of the day today. And then we're going to have a route march through Bastia. The route will not be outlined due to security reasons, but we will be through Bastia. And then we're going to have the surviving members or ex-members of the Defense Force who were present at Camp Springfield on that fateful day, June 10th, 1967, to come and lecture to the soldiers of the Defense Force today, and be able to interact with them and ask questions and so forth. So that is the activities. And then have light refreshment and give time off to soldiers to attend to their families and so on in the course of that day.
Captain Maloney, can you speak to us a bit about the importance of having that commemoration held? The 10th of June 1967 to the Defense Force. Why is it important to commemorate that date?
History is always important. Until we actually understand where you started, what happened, then we have no idea how best to proceed. So in my opinion, I think it's always best that we know our history, so that we could have better appreciate where we are today, what caused it, where we came from, etc., etc.
Okay. And then later this year, Major, the St. Kitts-Nevis Defense Force will celebrate 28 years of its reactivation as a regular corps. Give us a bit of a background behind that.
Okay. In the 80s, the Defense Force was established initially in 1896. And of course, the reason why the Defense Force was established was, of course, to keep the slaves in check. Because after the Buckley's riot uprising, before they could get the British Marines here, from history we remember that Bastia, most of Bastia was already burnt down. So that the Defense Force was established, a standing defense was established here. And of course, over the years, the Defense Force went through a number of changes. It metamorphosized from being the force to keep down black people, metamorphosized into the force that is protecting the same black people that it was initially established to keep down. So over the years, that has occurred. And of course, from history also, just like Captain Maloney mentioned, history is very important. The Defense Force was disbanded in the 80s, and of course in 1997, it was when it was disbanded in the 80s, it was just a volunteer reserve force. And in 1997, the regular arm of the Defense Force was reactivated. So it gave an opportunity to persons who want to serve their country in the military an opportunity to pursue a career. So in 1997 that happened, and the day when the act was passed in Parliament establishing the reactivation of the regular corps was the 8th of July 1997, and that is what we are going to be commemorating. A number of activities are planned for that day. We will publish them in very, very soon. There will be a whole series of activities. I don't want to outline them yet, but we'll have flyers out and we'll put out the information. And it will be activities that is going to involve the public as well. Public participation will be highly welcomed.
Okay, so 28 years later, why is the St. Kitts-Nevis Defense Force relevant? And I should say not just relevant, but needed in St. Kitts and Nevis, which is, of course, is the smallest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere.
I can start and let the Lieutenant Daniel and Captain Maloney also, make their contribution. We cannot overemphasize the importance of the St. Kitts-Nevis Defense Force, especially from its history, which I just outlined. It was established to keep down the black people, and now the same force is protecting the same black people. If not for anything else, for that same reason, that simple reason, the Defense Force should be highly honored, okay, through that transformation. But the contributions that the St. Kitts-Nevis Defense Force has been able to make towards the national security of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis is immeasurable. The police force, much bigger than the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force, cannot bear that responsibility alone. And because of the evolving nature of criminality worldwide, soldiers get the opportunity to train. They're trained differently, not to function within comfort zones in offices and so on. And it's obvious that criminals are not going to come to you. Well, some criminals will not come to you in a refined space, comfort space, and so on. They normally will try to exploit those avenues that are, outside of the scope of the general public. And the Defense Force soldiers are trained to counter such threats through that. They said, I want to give Lieutenant Daniel and Captain Maloney to also make their contribution.
From the infantry perspective, the Defense Force is needed. As you have seen over the past years, we would have had some spike in criminal activities. And what we are doing now, over the past, say, year, we have seen a significant difference in the amount of criminal activities, especially shooting. Now that we are here and we are looking at things totally different. So I think our contribution to national security, we have actually seen it with the drop, and I hope it continues in the kind of criminal activities, especially shooting, that we are actually experiencing today.
Okay.
Yes, as it relates to the relevance of the Defense Force, and in particular the St. Kitts Defense Force, Coast Guard, the country cannot necessarily function and have an international airport and have ports of entry without the Coast Guard. because we are essential to the protection of this lovely federation that we have. And that's our relevance. We have to be able to be there to protect our federation.
And of course, patrolling the coastal waters will assist in detecting any sort of efforts to illegally import contraband, and that also includes weapons, of course.
Yes.
Persons would use to, as we say, to carry out these heinous crimes, isn't it? It's to shoot in murders and other violent crimes. All right. So just quickly, gentlemen, we have about 4 minutes left. Talk to us a bit about recruitment, Major. If someone is interested in joining the ranks of the Defence Force,
yes.
How can they do so?
We are presently recruiting, and thank you for that question. It's very timely, actually. We are recruiting at the moment. We want suitably qualified young people within the Federation between the ages of 18 and 35 to join the St. Kitts-Nevis Defence Force to serve the country and help to protect this beautiful country of ours. The process is come through. You have to be a national of St. Kitts-Nevis or a legal resident of the Federation from especially around the region. You apply by obtaining an application form. You can come by Camp Springfield at the gate and ask for an application form, and the form will be given, and then you complete it, and all the requested documents to support the application, we put in the application, fill it out, and then submit it, and then the process starts. And after that, there's going to be, once you meet the qualifications, you'll be contacted to come and write exams, entrance exams, and then you have interviews as well, you have medicals, and then you have to do polygraph. You have to be polygraphed, and then once you pass through all those hurdles, then when you're successful, then you'll be called to commence training. 6 months training, tough training, and once you become successful, then you can serve in the Defence Force. Now, that is for the regular arm of the Defence Force. There are persons who have their regular jobs who also want to serve the Defence Force. They can join the reserve force, meaning that they can keep their job, but then they will be trained. They'll get an opportunity to be trained, and come in regularly on a weekly basis, and sometimes on the weekend, and then they will have periods when they will be called for like a camp, and they will do their training, but it will not be required to give up their day job. Okay, but it provides an opportunity because they're going to be able to train extensively all over the world. They're going to get to travel and everything, and be able to develop other skill sets that they probably don't know that they have. Okay, and then we also have the cadet, which is the program that is school-based. They have to be between the ages of 12 and 18 to join the Cadet Corps. The Cadet Corps provides leadership training, things like accountability, responsibility, self-respect, time management, conflict resolution, name it, for young people, so that by the time they get to the point where the peer pressure starts and they have to make a choice between wrong or good, they already know what choices they want to make. However, I must point that the Cadet Corps is voluntary. It is not compulsory, and is not a place that you bring a child who is not behaving, because if the child does not want to be part of it in the first place, they're not going to be able to benefit from it because it's not compulsory, and then they will have to be terminated.
And final question for each of you, and I'll probably start with you, Lieutenants. In terms of being a soldier, if you could sum it up in three words, three words or one word, depending on what would you just say, the benefits of being a soldier for you personally, how have that assisted you?
Personal, professional, and individual growth.
Captain?
Personal and professional growth. As a matter of fact, I do say that the force makes me the man that I am today.
Major?
Well, in addition to what they just said, I think it's rewarding. It's rewarding to be able to serve a country, put your life on the line to serve a country. No amount of money can compensate for that. Every day we wake up, we go out to serve this beautiful country of ours. We have had soldiers who in the line of their duty have been injured before. Like I say again, there's no amount of money that you can put to compensate for that. It is rewarding. That awesome responsibility that you are safeguarding the Federation is so rewarding. And I encourage people to join and come and be part of this rewarding experience.
And if I can add a word, even though I'm not a member, I've worked with you all for many years. I think family is important.
Yes.
It functions as a family.
Yes, it does.
We certainly would like to thank you, Lieutenant Daniel, Captain Maloney, and also Major Sutton for being with us on InFocus. And
thank you.
We certainly will look forward to learning more about some of the activities that you have planned, particularly as we talk about celebrating the activation, the reactivation of the regimental corps. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for InFocus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank you, viewers and listeners, as well for being with us for this edition of InFocus. We trust that you will join us next week at the same place, at the same time. Remember, it's InFocus, your government, your business. I'm Ian Richards.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info. Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the Kitts-Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.